Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll just say welcome, not welcome back, because this is the start of a new era. It's a new decade, a new generation. The old GameZone podcast, the very inconsistent one, is dead. This is the new official GameZone podcast.
I like it. I like it. We're
We
using the Nintendo naming convention.
yeah. This is a new start because we've found a new service to record on Anchor, which will make this podcasting thing much easier to let us distribute to other podcasting services like Spotify. Is that right?
Yes, Spotify. I mean, basically all the different
everything
streaming services. Yep.
That's awesome. So it'll get us out there. We'll be on more services. It is a more streamlined version, and will help us eliminate the workflow and make it much easier for us to do this very consistently.
Indeed.
So I'm Cade Onder, editor-in-chief of GameZone.com, and I'm joined by Mike Splechta.
Hello, everyone.
So today, this is going to be a shorter podcast. There will be a video version of this, right, Mike?
Yes.
And that will be showing off the gameplay of Outriders. I went to Los Angeles last week to play Square Enix and People Can Fly's new game, which is also cross-generation.
Which we found out today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you probably knew that when you were there, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, if you don't know what Outriders is, it's a sci-fi RPG co-op shooter I would say it's closer to Destiny than the Division.
Okay.
And we'll get into reasons why, but you're basically a part of a group of people who are leaving Earth to colonize on a new planet called Enoch. I think that's how you say it. And Earth has been ravaged by all kinds of problems like climate change, and it's uninhabitable now. And so you go to Enoch to try and survive, and when you get there, it's like, oh, this is a really nice place. It's really beautiful. And then you quickly discover shit's about to hit the fan, and this incredibly awful storm comes and ravages the planet and tears everything apart. And you then get these powers that you get to choose from. You get to pick a class, and those determine what powers you have. And you'll see some of that in the gameplay. I played as this character called Trickster, who can kind of manipulate space and time. I'll also have a written piece that goes into some of the more specifics too as well. So that's on the website as well. And Trickster can teleport and slow down time and do all these crazy cool things. Mike, did you have a chance to watch the gameplay I sent you?
I did, and I actually have. Let me start it off with a few questions.
Yeah.
And what I think it looks like, and then you can correct me or tell me if I'm right. Because from the 30-minute gameplay you took, the impressions I definitely got was the Division, even though you said it is not like the Division.
No, it is the Division more than Destiny.
Oh, that's what you said. Okay.
Yeah,
So yes, I definitely got impressions of the Division because I saw, for instance, World Tier up at the top, which is I think that might be only the Division. I think does that as far as I know.
As far as I know, yeah.
Even like the cover-based shooting, which granted, these people also make Gears of War Judgment, so I guess that whole cover shooter mechanic they've had way before the Division was ever a thing. But then a buddy of mine who I showed the clip to also said it looks a little bit like Mass Effect combat because of the abilities that you get that you have.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that.
So a little bit of Division mixed with Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Would you say that's about accurate?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Especially with the cover shooting, like both of those games have cover shooting. The Division relies a lot more on the cover, I feel like. Like, if you are not sitting in cover, you will get torn apart. But this game, I don't know if you saw my gameplay, I was definitely getting out there a lot more and just getting into it.
And actually, your class kind of spoke very much to my gameplay style. Because if there's one thing that anyone who's played Division 2 with me knows is that I am like allergic to cover, and I'm also always the first one dead because of that.
Yeah.
So when I saw, because I guess each class also has like a specialty in terms of like the Trickster was close range, and I think it was a Pyromancer.
Yeah.
Was the other class, and that one was, I guess, more long range. And you didn't hover over the third class. But was that more like a tank or?
Yeah, I think it's called Devastator. And I think he does these like ground pound kind of abilities, so it's almost like more AOE stuff.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah. They
Is there do any of these classes have like heals that they heal other people
yeah.
or no?
So I I should have probably written this down. um, the way they described it to me is like they all have their own individual one, and I think Trickster, if I'm remembering this correctly, it was like if you get if you kill someone in close range to you, it'll heal you. And I think also I think it's if someone dies in proximity to you, an enemy, if they die, you will heal. So if someone else kills an enemy around you, you'll heal. So I think if
Oh,
you're like in
okay.
trouble and someone shoots the enemy in front of you, it can save you and kind of give you a little bit of health.
Got it. So there's no like direct healing class per
No,
se
no,
that has
nothing
like a
like that.
skill. Got it, got it. Okay, so there's definitely nothing because when you said tank, I was like, oh, are they going for like the holy trinity of
Yeah,
DPS, tank, and healer?
yeah.
But that does not seem to be the case here.
There is a at least one other class that they did not talk about.
Okay,
So that could be something
so
like
it's
that.
possible. Okay,
But yeah, um,
but
yeah.
did it feel like this game needs something like that when you were playing it?
No, not really. I
Okay.
never. We got into a boss fight later, and I think we'll probably put that footage up on Friday. Um, and that got a little tricky, but there was just two of us, and I felt like the game could be played solo, which sometimes I might have even preferred playing it solo,
Hmm.
which is something I'm not used to saying with these kinds of games, which is nice. But we got into like it got a little hairy, but as long as you kind of just like take a minute and think a little bit, then you'll be fine. And it looked like we were healing on our own too, so like it wasn't super hard. It took a little bit of time, but it was relatively smooth. And I would say if there was any point where we needed a healer, that would have been the time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, like basically the game. What I hate about these, it's not a games of service game. They've been very vocal about that. They
Oh,
were
it's
very
not.
clear about that. Yeah, yeah. There's
Oh, okay.
they weren't talking about anything post launch. They're like there'll be end game content, but like unless the game like they said if the game does well they'll support it. But like they're not coming out with like yeah this is gonna be years and years of Outriders like they kind of do with Anthem or the
Okay.
Division. They're like
Okay. I mean,
this is the game.
maybe in this day and age, that's maybe the smarter way to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, and you can definitely feel that within the game itself. That's there, and I think that's really good because you know, I know you probably love Destiny. You love Destiny, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't.
mean, I fell out of love with it.
Okay.
But I did at one point play it very obsessively. Yes.
I said this to the developers and they asked me if I liked it, and I was like, yeah, I really like it because it feels like there is a game there, and it's not 5 hours where you're starting to like really get into it, and then it cuts off, and it's like come back in a year, play the expansion for like the real deal. I
Okay.
fucking hate that.
Okay.
And they have, the way I really resonated with this game was the story and the world didn't feel like backdrops or reasons for the combat, which is usually how I feel about those kinds of games.
Okay.
It felt like you create your own character at the start of the game, and you get to pick their faces and all that, but then they feel like a character rather than the weird sentient person sitting in the corner of the room while other people deliver exposition and you just listen. And you can talk with people, you can have branching conversations. That doesn't mean that there's a branching narrative, but you can still talk to their characters and learn more about the world and their character.
Okay.
So it feels like a character and not a vehicle for the gameplay, which is nice.
Okay.
It feels like there is a story here, and one that I'm actually interested in, rather than something half-assed.
Okay.
Which is usually how these games come across.
So my next question
Mhm.
is because it is a little bit like Division 2, for example.
Yeah.
What is the central gameplay loop like? Because obviously, I mean, you said it's not a games as a service,
Mhm.
but I would imagine that there's some sort of addicting gameplay
Yeah.
loop that has you kind of do this, then go back to do this,
Yeah.
then go back to do this.
So
How does that work in Outriders?
there is like a hub world and stuff like that. You go to a place and there's merchants and all that. You get loot. It has, the gameplay elements of a game like Destiny or The Division, but without the I guess what's the word? The long-term structure, the formula of those games. So you have the loot, the growing world, stuff like that. But it keeps all the good stuff and then takes all the bad stuff and builds on it and makes it, it makes all the potential of those games, it lives up to the potential of those kinds of games. It makes it seem like, where, we talked about Destiny doesn't always hit the story right when it comes out. This game kind of looks like it might, and I'm really excited about that.
Okay, so hang on. So you're in the hub, and you have quest givers, I'm assuming, or is there like a mission board?
Yeah, there are like people who can give you side quests and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So then you pick a quest. What happens then? Do you go into one seamless big world, or is it zones?
It seemed like zones. I didn't get the feeling that there was like a open world or anything like that. Like how Anthem and stuff has that. Yeah. It seems more zone based or like.
Okay, that's definitely not a bad thing.
No. Yeah, it seems a lot more. The game feels focused. That's the right word to use. It's a focused game that knows what it wants and takes all the elements of games that are really popular right now and combines them into something that is digestible. And because I think a lot of problem too with these kinds of games is people fall off and then they can't get back in because it keeps going without them and it gets hard to keep up. But I don't think that's going to be the case with this game.
Okay. What sort of did they explain how the longevity of this game will work? Because obviously loot is, I'm sure, a big component of this game. So obviously you're always hunting for better loot. But what happens when you hit that level cap?
I guess they never really talked about it. I mean, they said the level cap is in flux right now, so they haven't nailed anything down.
Oh, interesting. I mean, the game is holiday 2020.
Yeah, so it's still a ways off. They were very transparent about pretty much everything. So they were like very open to feedback. People were giving them feedback. They were taking it down and into consideration. So I mean, things can change. They said there is end game content, but wouldn't go into what that means. The game has a definitive ending, so there's no multiple endings or anything like that.
Okay.
They're very focused on, I think, delivering a specific story and narrative. I think one of the writers of the game that they had there, he wrote Destiny as well.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so I think that was an interesting thing to note. I think he only wrote the first one, as far as I know. Yeah, so they're doing interesting things. I really don't know what they're going to do long term. It seems they're just very focused on what they have now. They said it takes about 30 to 40 hours to complete.
Wow,
at the moment.
That's
so I mean, it feels like this is for lack of a better term, like a real game, like your $60 game that you buy and you're like, this is the game. This is the complete package. If nothing else happens after this is the game, and that's fine. Which I think is how you need to make these kinds of games.
Yeah, I mean, especially since it's not games as a service, I feel like it kind of they have to make sure that it's front loaded with content to make it feel like it's a complete package. Because that's I guess the one pitfall that games as a service games have is that they kind of give you the bare minimum with promises of more.
Yes.
And then you get through that bare minimum in like 10 hours, and then you're like, man, that was really fun, but I guess I gotta wait 3 months until the next big thing drops.
Exactly.
Which, I will say, Division 2, I know we've brought up this game a bunch already, but I think that's the only game so far I feel like
it does it all well.
Yes, front-loaded their game so well, where there was so much content from day one, where I did not of course, I did eventually stop playing it, but
same.
By the time I did, I felt like holy crap, that is $60 worth and more.
Yeah,
Like,
For sure.
I didn't
That's
even
how I
feel
felt too.
yeah, I didn't even feel like I needed to go back and like, oh man, I feel like I'm missing out on this episodic content that they did, because
Mhm.
I feel like I've had my fill of that game, and it was just so well front loaded with content. So
I
it's
completely
definitely
agree.
possible to do that, but
Yeah.
I would just imagine that in their case, since they're saying it is not a live service game,
Yeah.
that has to be their focus.
It has to be. You know, it's always possible that this is marketing speak, and they're you know, it's not entirely true. I mean, we've seen games like this kind of do that, but the way they talked to me and stuff, it seemed very genuine, and that they are building a game that they really care about. Like, they were coming over and watching me play, and they were telling me things, giving me tips and tricks and all that stuff. They were very like, this is a game like that we've been wanting to make, because
Nice.
People Can Fly, their last game was Gears of War Judgment.
Oh wow, that was the
2013.
last game. Interesting.
Yeah, cause they got absorbed by Epic, and then they were on Fortnite duty, and
Oh, okay.
then they acquired their independence and have been working on this for the last 4 years or so. And then Square Enix is publishing, and so they seem like they just really wanted to make their own game and make something that is true to them, and I think that's really good. I don't I don't think they. I feel like there's been so many examples of these kinds of games this generation that they've been like kind of watching and been like, okay, don't do that, do that, don't do that. Like, you know, just look at fucking Anthem and just be like, okay, don't do that.
Definitely
don't do any of that. And so, yeah, it's really nice. And so, I mean, we had a question. I think someone asked me if this is going to be another Anthem, and I really feel like no, it's not. I think even I had some hesitance. Like, everyone saw the flying of Anthem and the gunplay, and everyone was like, that looks great. And then everyone was like, what about the rest? And for the longest time, they were just kind of like, you know, you'll see. And then we saw, and it wasn't great. And they are showing everything, really. Like, they were showing so much of the game. We played 3 hours, and then they kind of were like, go back and play more. There's some side quests you can go in and play those, and they were like, this is the game, and we want you to experience a lot of it right now.
Nice.
So,
is there any sort of dodge roll mechanic in this game? I
Yes.
didn't notice. Oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah.
Melee?
Melee, yes, there's melee too.
Interesting. Okay, because there was another game that this heavily reminded me of, and that was Remnant from the Ashes. Have you played that or no?
I know of it, but I haven't played it.
Okay, I actually just recently picked it back up and played through it twice with a few buddies, and that, I mean, I'm sure you've seen like everyone calling it like a third-person shooter Dark Souls or whatever, which it's very accurate to call it that, because that's basically what it is. It's like a Dark Souls games where instead of melee weapons you focus more on guns. But this game specifically, and kind of not even just because of its gameplay, but also kind of the aesthetic of it reminded me of that game too, because I watched the prologue footage you sent me, which I will overlay over this, and it's all colorful and you know, like completely different from the actual gameplay segment that you sent me. How is the game more so like that, or does it eventually get back to being a little more colorful?
Yeah, so that's what I actually kind of enjoyed. I mentioned that to the writer. I was like, I really liked the strong contrast at the very beginning and then the actual game, because that is, you get to that world and you're like, oh, this is great. You play for like probably 30 minutes in there, and you're like seeing all this life. There's a moment that almost reminds me of like the stampede scene from The Lion King, or even like the dinosaurs in King Kong, Peter Jackson's King Kong, where you're walking through these like plains, and then all these animals just come running out of the like forest, and they just go and like take off, and it's like super cool and like really beautiful. And then it's just lush green and blue skies, and then that's when the storm happens and it destroys the planet basically.
Okay.
You don't
see. You would say the remainder of the game is more post-apocalyptic looking.
Yeah. So they didn't let us record this part, but you see it at the end of that prologue footage. The basically you go into Kairos sleep or whatever the hell it's called, and I think you go to sleep for like 30 years,
Oh,
and
okay.
then you wake up and everyone is in chaos because you've been gone for 30 years. This was not the plan. The plan was to have a sustainable life on this new planet, and you wake up, you're captured, and you're thrown in the back of this truck, and there are these like psychopaths, and they're like crazy, and they're like, you're going into no man's land, and we're gonna take you there, and you're gonna die there, and you're like, holy shit, get away from me. And then you drive through this like town, and there's bodies hanging off the platforms, and there's fire, and it's death and destruction. um the way they kept describing it, it was very specific. They're like, you're going to be in the dirt and shit. I'm like, I don't know what that means. That's kind of gross. But that's how, like you said, like there are like colors and stuff, but it is a lot more like saturated than the bright blues and greens of the prologue. Yeah, but I do think that's important because a lot of games would just throw you into the apocalyptic setting, and it gives you perspective and show like, oh, this is not how this was supposed to be. And I think it's actually really powerful.
Yeah, so that specifically, just that more post-apocalyptic setting definitely also reminded me of Remnant from the Ashes, which great game. That game also I feel like came out of nowhere, and by like a small studio, Gunfire Games, I think. Well, actually, they made a few bigger games, like I think Darksiders 3 and stuff like that. But just really polished. I guess it's a games as a service because they do keep updating it and adding more content. But I'm not sure if they specifically said. That's the thing. I don't know if there's a name for these games that get updated little, just over a longer period of time, or if those are also considered live service games. But
I don't know.
Either way, what they did was awesome. So when I saw that gameplay, the 30 minutes of gameplay footage, it definitely, I felt like channeled that game, for me at least. And so that got me excited because I very much enjoyed that kind of stuff. But in terms of like, the whole point with Remnant is that it was very random. Like, your world would have a different seed than mine, and we would have different bosses and stuff like that. I don't think that this game is like that, right? Like this you would say that there's no like randomization of levels or anything like that, right? Like, it's like the worlds are all pretty much set the way they are, or did they say that it was randomization?
No, it seemed like the world is set as it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have some Twitter questions if you want to jump into those.
Yeah.
So obviously, as we said at the start, this is an Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 game, but it'll also be on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. Someone wanted to know, Bandola at DHMat90 said, so do you feel like a quote-unquote jump of the generation by playing this demo? I know it was on PC, but still. Anything technical that stands out to you? So the game looks like a game. Like, it's nothing like, oh my god, this is the next Watch Dogs. You remember that? Like,
yeah.
It's nothing that crazy. But I don't know, there's something about it, like, when you're in these conversations and you can pick what you're gonna say next or whatever, the way, like, it felt like it flowed right, like there wasn't a jarring cut, and then like the character starts talking, like they would even like start walking around in the scene, and then they would go back to their original marks, and then they would start talking again, and it felt like it flowed very right. I mean, I don't think that's like a thing that the new technology is allowing for, but I just think that's really cool.
I mean, I think I can kind of speak on this too, judging from just what I've watched, not having played it. But the first thing, this was when I watched it this morning before they announced that this was a holiday 2020 game and it was for PS5 and Xbox Series X. I thought, okay, he's playing on PC, and I can totally see this playing on my PS4, but I do not see it playing at 60 frames per second.
Sure.
And so then, once it got announced, I was like, okay, I can definitely see this being on PS5 and Series X, but probably at 60 frames per second, and maybe nothing else. Like to me, it did not seem like a crazy leap graphic-wise. Like, it definitely seemed like something I think even like a regular PS4 could probably play.
Yeah.
But I do think that maybe the new systems might be pushing that frame rate a little harder, so
Yeah.
it could go like 1080
Yeah.
maybe even 4K and 60. That I still don't believe, but maybe I'll be proven wrong. I hope I am. So in terms of that, I feel like that's like the only thing I can possibly see this game having like a next gen advantage
Yeah.
over the current gen is a higher frame rate, but yeah, nothing really jumped out at me as looking very next gen in it.
Yeah. They wouldn't
But
talk to
also,
me about
what does
next
that
gen.
mean though, right? Like we don't even know. Like
Yeah.
we haven't
Yeah.
really
We don't
seen
know what these new
anything running
consoles look
on
like. Yeah.
PS5
That is
hardware
funny.
or Xbox Series X hardware, so
Yeah.
we have nothing to like compare it to. But yeah, those are my initial impressions of that.
Yeah. They wouldn't really talk to me about next gen. They were very
Yeah,
dodgy.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I asked them, like, is this going to be a launch title on those new consoles? And they were like, we cannot tell you, but holiday 2020 is a good indicator. So I took
Yeah,
that as like, yeah, probably.
right,
Um,
right, right.
but yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to expect with those. I think it's a lot what you said. I imagine this game was in development before they started getting like dev kits and started like really having
Yeah,
meaningful
I mean,
discussions about
if it was
those.
4 years ago,
Yeah,
that's probably. I mean, I don't know when they started sending those out, but I would imagine 2 years, maybe three.
yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe this was started before those started going out,
And
and
then they were like,
yeah,
okay, we can just put this on there.
exactly,
Yeah, so
exactly.
I imagine, yeah, it'll probably be like another year or two before you start seeing games that are like really like this was built with this console in mind. Outside like first party stuff like Halo and all that.
Right. And also the fact that this is cross gen is kind of like a big indicator that maybe people should not be expecting anything too crazy out of it,
Yeah,
because obviously it's got to run on the current hardware right now.
sure,
So they probably can't do anything
super.
wildly graphical, yeah, on the PS5 version, because then it's kind of like the Destiny 1 situation. Like that
Yeah,
game I feel was held back by the fact that it was on the 360 and PS3, and then Destiny 2, once it was unshackled from
it's a
that,
very pretty game.
looked way better. Yeah, like
Yeah,
night
this
and
is a
day.
very good looking game though. Like it should not be
Oh yeah.
understated. I think I was
Oh,
playing it in
100%, yeah.
4K or something, so like it is a very good looking game. And by no means are you going to be like, ew, this game's ugly. Like,
Right, right,
yeah.
right.
But yeah, it's a good looking game. What else? John Muncher wants to know: is it enjoyable if played solo? I kind of mentioned this already, but yeah, I mean, they didn't force us to play co-op, but like they're like, do you want to play co-op? And I'm like, I'd feel bad if I said no, because there was someone sitting right next to me. We did
Right.
not speak at all, so I mean, like, it was very awkward, but we made it work, and you know, I think there is something beneficial playing co-op, like the powers, especially if you have different builds playing with each other. They complement each other. Like if I'm using my trickster powers, I can slow someone down and basically freeze them in place or cause them to move very slowly, and then they can use their pyromancer abilities to light them on fire, and then they kind of like combine well together. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So it's not like everyone is kind of split up into like different sections in like a really weird way and doesn't really mesh well. It feels like the combat is designed to make you use your powers together. And
Yeah,
so
class synergy, yeah.
yeah. So I think you can definitely play it solo and you will have a lot of fun. I will probably be playing this game largely solo. It is 3-player. I don't know why they didn't just go 4.
Okay.
Whatever.
That's another. I mean, Remnant did the same thing.
Really?
And I think, well, Destiny wasn't Destiny Fire Teams were 3 people, I think, also.
That sounds right. Yeah.
The only thing, yeah, Division 2 had 4. It's kind of, I think, to me, it's like a balancing thing. Maybe with 4, things might be a little too easy, and 3 was just the right amount of crazy skills being fired off everywhere. So maybe it has something to do with that. I'm not sure, or maybe it's a hardware limitation that it can't support 4 on current gen system. I don't know, but yeah, that's definitely not new.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take one more question. I'm curious about how it compares to the feel of other superpowered first-person shooter games. It's a third-person game, but I don't know if that was clear in the trailer. Like Borderlands, Overwatch, BioShock. Also, how the loot system is and feels. Very interested in this game. That comes from Jake Sharkey T on Twitter. So the superpowers like are really fun to use, and it doesn't feel like you're just shooting. Like when I play Destiny, sometimes like the cooldown on the superpowers are a little too long. Even with Borderlands too, like sometimes those cooldowns are a little too long. They like the powers are like the forefront of the game. If you watch the footage, like I was using them pretty quickly. I think it's at the bottom of the screen. You can see like
right in the middle.
Yeah, so you can see how quickly that kind of recharges. You are heavily encouraged to use that actively in gameplay, so it's not like it's not like really a reward like some of those other things are, which is nice. And like it was really fun. One of my favorite things to do was, with Trickster you can teleport behind enemies, and then it'll freeze them for a moment, and you can kill them. And so I would be like across the battlefield, and then I would look at someone and be like, I'm going to you. And then I'd get behind them, they'd freeze, and I'd shotgun their head off or something. It's like really satisfying.
Yeah, it looks fun.
And there's another one where you have like almost this like kind of force field thing where you drop it down, and the characters who are inside of it or walk inside of it will get slowed down. And then same with bullets that are going through it. And you can just unload on them, all that cool stuff. And then one of the other ones is like a melee attack kind of thing, and it slows everyone down, and then once that's over, they like explode.
Oh wow.
And their blood and bones like fly everywhere. It's gruesome, but it's awesome. And so it's really satisfying, and I think the powers are going to be really fun to use, and I'm interested in what the fourth character is. They didn't hint at it, tease anything, so it's a total mystery. But I'm excited to see what that is.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And did they say that's gonna be it? Four classes and that's it?
I don't think they said one way or another.
Okay.
I would imagine like it'll probably be 4 at the start, and then if they do extra stuff later, they might add more characters. But I don't know. But yeah.
He also wanted to know about the loot.
The loot, right? The loot didn't really stand out to me. Like it was very easy to like equip it, sell it, all that. Like you could do it on the fly in the game and all that. But like when it drops, I almost didn't always notice it. So I think maybe there's some work there, work that needs to be done there to like make it
I feel like that's
more.
Almost the best part is just
like
seeing
the colors
the stuff shiny on the floor. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely there, but it's not like whoa, I just got like this super cool item or anything. Like it's like it's just stuff that's on the ground. So I mean, like I'm sure that's something that can be improved. Like I doubt it'll stay that way. But like I did like all the loot I got when I looked at it. Like it changes the look of your character. Like
every single piece.
Pretty much, yeah. Like
wow.
I had a trench coat and stuff, and all these other different things, and you can get masks and helmets and boots and gloves, and pretty much every piece of your body can change, and it's not like generic looking armor. It like actually looks kind of cool. So
cool. Yeah, all about that fashion.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the true end game.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think they'll have some cool stuff, and there's some screenshots in the article I have on the site that are like official screenshots, but like you get to see some of the armor and stuff, and it looks pretty cool.
Nice. I actually noticed, and this is actually the first thing I sent to my buddy before I sent him the look at the gameplay was a screenshot of the inventory system.
Yeah,
which looks almost identical to Destiny.
Yes, it looks very similar.
So there was definitely some inspiration behind that.
Yeah.
But how was navigating that? Because that's like kind of the one thing that you were playing with a mouse and keyboard, I would assume, or So I think that's going to be a little bit different, but that's kind of the one thing that always bothered me a little bit about Destiny was that little circle icon and just navigating across the entire screen to get everything. I know you play with the mouse, but do you think that might be a problem in this game, or what? Or the way it was laid out made sense to you?
It made sense to me. I mean, like I would hope that they looked at like Destiny, and I think even Call of Duty, like did that for Black Ops 4. They had a cursor as well, and it was just like, why are we doing this? Like, I think, if they just look at that and realize, okay, as long as we just make this thing move kind of fast and, like, it's not super clunky, it'll work. But I think Destiny, like, the layout of their inventory in terms of the way it looks and how it's organized is, like, really well done. So the whole inspiration from there, like, totally fine. Like, I think that's the way to go.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's it. So I think what's probably should be noted, we had about 20 minutes of gameplay here that we've been looping along with maybe trailers and stuff. We were only allowed to show 20 minutes, but we recorded like 3 hours of footage. We're probably not going to release all of it because it's a pain in the ass. But I'll talk to Mike and we'll see if we can get some more stuff up on Friday, which should be the day after you're hearing this. And then, you can read the preview article on the site right now. Goes into how the game really feels, plays, the story, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Actually, speaking of feel, sorry to interrupt you, but
no, sorry.
We actually never even discussed the gunplay.
Gunplay feels really good.
Does it? Okay, because I feel like that's going to be one of the most important aspects. So
yeah, the way I described it in my like preview article is like, Bulletstorm is one of my favorite FPS games.
Really fun game. Okay, that's true. I should have known. They already have the DNA from that.
Yeah, they know how to make a good feeling shooter, and so they really nail like, it is fun to move around and play, and like the gunplay feels free flowing and not stiff or anything like that. And as we talked about earlier, you're not really locked into cover to stay alive, so like you can get around, move around, and get in the action, and not just pop shots from the distance or whatever. So
okay.
It feels very fun to play, and I was having a very good time.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I actually did just think of 2 more things I want to touch on before we wrap it up.
Sure.
You said skills are kind of the front and center of each character.
Mm-hmm.
Do you gain more than the ones you have? And is there a skill tree?
Yes.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, there is. There are some, like, I think I have screenshots of those, but I didn't really get to see it because once we finished the boss fight, our character became like useless. We had to restart if we wanted to keep playing, and we had to like create a new character, which was a little frustrating. So we couldn't keep building up our character to see how far it went. But I talked to someone else, and she was like, "Yeah, you can really do some cool stuff in there, and there's plenty of abilities." So
builds are probably going to be a thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Like different variety of builds from the same character.
Correct. What's the other question?
Classes. Are you locked to those with your character?
Seems that way.
Okay. So if you want to try out all 4, you'd have to create 4.
Yeah, create new characters. Yeah.
Got it.
That's how they encouraged us when we finished. They're like, well, we encourage you to go play Pyromancer and stuff like that. I didn't. I was really hungry, so I went and got food. But I know some people who did, and they're like, every character feels pretty well rounded. So that's good stuff.
Cool. And back to skills. Because in that footage you had 2 at the bottom. Do you always only have 2 and then you switch them out, or does that bottom bar keep growing?
3.
3. I
don't know if that third one made it into the cut of the footage I sent you. You always have 3, and I think you get to swap them out.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so that actually creates more diversity too, based on what you pick.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, this is like you said, this is right up my alley. I love co-op shooters, love sci-fi. I mean, third person is also kind of more of my forte, so definitely looks exciting.
Yeah, I went in with very tempered expectations because I've been burnt by these games before, like Destiny and Anthem and stuff. But I'm definitely on board. This is a game I'm looking forward to, especially if we get Xbox and PlayStation review units at the end of the year, and this is like one of the games, I'm going to be like, this is one of the games I'm going to be playing a lot of.
For sure.
So I'm excited to see what else they got, and I'm sure E3 this year they'll talk more about it, and I wouldn't be surprised. They didn't say anything about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a beta later on. Too.
Oh, okay.
Usually there is for these kinds of things, so I'm just speculating. I don't know anything.
Yeah, especially for multiplayer-focused games.
So wouldn't be surprised if they do something later on in the year to let everyone else play it, especially because the new IP, you want to be able to get in on that and to sell them on it. So I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so like I said, the impressions are up now. There will be an interview with the developers. We talk about building the world and stuff like that, and kind of what they've been up to these last few years. That'll be up on the site. I don't know if it'll be up right when this goes live, but it'll be up sometime today, aka Thursday the 13th. I think that's about it. Outriders is out at the end of the year. Holiday 2020, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PS4, PS5. It's weird that we're getting to say that now. And PC.
PC.
And,
no Switch.
No Switch. No Switch, unfortunately. I think that wraps it up. You can follow me on Twitter at Cade_Onder, Mike.
I'm on Twitter at my full name at MICHAELSPLECHTA.
And then GameZone is GameZone.com, and like I said, we have plenty of Outriders covers going live there. I think that about covers it, and we'll probably be back next week with some other thing. I think we're talking about Dreams maybe on PS4 now that that's out. I think that's what we might be going for. Things might change, but at the moment, that seems to be the idea.
Is it out, or isn't it? It's Valentine's Day, isn't it?
Yeah. So
okay,
talk about it next
almost
week.
Almost out.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. Sounds good.
Yes, sir.